Hi everyone, I'm Jack from Jack's English.
And I'm Luke from Learn English Like a Pro, and welcome back to our podcast. This is our 5th episode. This podcast is designed to help you improve your listening by listening to our natural discussions.
Yes, and today we are talking about studying.
Right.
Something we all do. We don't necessarily all like. But how about you? How do you feel about studying? Do you like studying?
Overall, yes. I love learning about things I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, recently I got into kind of ancient civilizations through another podcast I've been listening to, and that's really intrigued me. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've been doing a lot of research by myself on like the ancient Egyptians and ancient Amazonian people.
Wow.
And it's fascinating. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A very deep subject, I think.
Deep subject, but my major was history
Yes.
in university, so it's something I do have an interest in.
How about the heavier subjects such as learning languages or something like that? Do you like doing that?
I go through phases.
Yeah.
So about 5 years ago, I was really into studying Korean because we live in Korea, and I learned a lot with over a short space of time because I put my head down, I knuckled down, I studied really hard. But after a few years, my interest faded, and now it's a little bit hard to motivate myself to do that.
That's a big thing, isn't it? Motivation.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. How about you?
Well, I think I've had a love-hate relationship with studying. So when I was younger, I hated studying. I really hated studying. I didn't understand why we study. I didn't see any point in it. So yeah, I can only say that when I was young, and certainly up till perhaps 23 or 24, I didn't get on with studying, and it didn't go well. My exam results were poor. It just overall was just not a good part of my life.
Why do you think that?
I think often when you study, you need to have a goal, but not just have a goal. You need to understand why you're going towards that, right? So I think we touched on that last podcast, didn't we? That when you're young, you don't really know why you're doing something. It's like we're studying it, but I don't see what I'm going towards. And I think that was what I suffered from.
Yeah.
I studied geography exams and I didn't really know why I was doing that. I didn't want to be in that field. Anyway, coming to now, I had a lot of motivation when I came to Korea and I wanted to learn the language. So I really enjoyed studying. And in university in Korea, I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. And, I hate to admit it, but I enjoyed getting up, going to the library early in the morning, getting a cup of coffee and doing some study, doing 3, 4, 5 hours.
Yeah. So you definitely got better at studying later on in life when you were an adult.
Yes, much. It was a big difference, and there was some enjoyment there. Obviously, it's not good if you've got other things going on in your life, you're working or whatever it is, but if you can really focus on your studying and you've got that goal, I think it can be a really enjoyable thing.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that feeling?
Well, back to your school days, I was exactly the same. I hated studying in school, apart from one subject, which was history. I liked that.
Yeah.
But geography, maths, even English literature, those subjects were really hard for me. And not because it was kind of cognitively difficult, but just my motivation levels were so low. So I wish I can blame my teachers. I wish my teachers made those subjects a bit more interesting.
Yes.
They stuck to the book. They taught to the exam.
Yes.
They didn't really try to cultivate motivation in their students.
And that's very common, isn't it? I think a lot of teachers in high school didn't really care. Certainly in my high school,
I think so
same,
too.
right?
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, that's a big thing, isn't it? Motivation. I think we'll talk about that a lot today when we think about study. Yeah. So when you have a big exam, and I know you've had big exams for years and years, recently you had one. When you have a big exam, how do you study?
My secret weapon, I like to call it, is I just do the past papers. So I find online a catalogue of past papers for that exam, and I just do them repeatedly. until I feel really comfortable with the type of question that the exam asks, and also the format of answering. And also, it's a more kind of self-study process of learning, because you have to find the answers for yourself online, write your own answers and check it yourself, rather than going through a textbook, which I find quite boring and quite limited.
Okay.
So that's my secret tip. Go find past papers and just do them all repeatedly.
Yes.
And like you said, I did an exam only a few months ago in Tokyo, a teacher's exam. It was a really hard essay exam. And I just did that for months, past papers.
So let me ask you this then, because that sounds great for a big exam, and that was obviously the question. But how about when you are just studying for enjoyment or just for self-development? How do you study in that case?
I like to listen. So I'm a subscriber to Audible.com, which is Amazon books, audiobooks platform. And I listen to a lot of educational podcasts or just informational podcasts.
Okay.
So I like to walk my dog and listen, actually. And I think that's the best way that I learn personally.
Good. Yeah, so you're an auditory learner, right?
For sure.
Yes.
100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. How about you? Do you have any special techniques for studying?
I do, yes. And firstly, for big exams, I always use the same method, and it is with a textbook.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, we got our textbook and we know the range of the exam, it's half the textbook or whatever. I get the chapters that are within the range and I summarize them in writing, all the key points. So perhaps at the end of that study session, I've got 10 to 20 pieces of paper where I've summarized all the chapters.
Yeah.
Obviously, that takes hours and hours.
Yes.
It's it takes a lot of time. But then the next study session, I bring just those papers and I summarize that
I see.
into a smaller amount of information. And I repeat that process again and again.
Interesting.
And the end goal is a piece of paper like this.
Yeah.
With everything I need on there that summarizes that half of the textbook. And hopefully everything on there kind of triggers the information that I've already learned.
Interesting.
And
they do say if you want to explain something simply, you have to know it very well.
Right.
And a summary is a simple explanation of the deeper, more difficult content.
Yes.
So summarizing and re-summarizing, doing that over and over again, I'm sure is a very useful technique. So
it served me well. I kind of it developed that way as I was studying, and I found that to work well for me. But it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, sure.
And a lot of writing, a painful hand at the end of exams. So yes, that's how I study for big exams. Outside of that, I'd probably say I'm similar to you. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm an auditory learner. I just enjoy that. I enjoy listening to podcasts.
Yes.
So I think that's why we made this,
Yeah,
right?
right, exactly.
Hopefully this helps you if you are an auditory learner. But yes, I'm the same as you. I'm a bit guilty with studying Korean. I've kind of let it slip in the last few years. But if I study it, I just like to consume content. I like to watch dramas and look at scripts, get a drama, get a 30-second clip and look at the script and kind of consume it that way. And I find that helps a lot.
Good. Yeah.
So
authentic input, right? Authentic content.
Yes, right. I think that's and also that's good for motivation as well, right? You feel like you're getting some real life content.
It's just what this podcast is designed for you guys.
Yes, hopefully.
Authentic
hopefully you're enjoying
content.
it. Yes. So lastly, the last thing I'd like to talk about is English.
Okay.
For these people listening to this podcast, do you have a tip for English learners studying English?
Yeah. Yes, of course. So, of course, I've been an English teacher for a long time, and the biggest problem I see with most students is that they put all of their efforts into studying. But, of course, English is a language, so you have to use it as well. So I really always suggest to my students to do 50% study and 50% using English as naturally and fluently as you possibly can. And that can be with writing a journal or writing a blog or even speaking to people, on the street or online. But you need to spend at least 50% of your English time using it, not just learning. Yeah.
So we're similar in that way, aren't we? Our opinion.
Yeah.
I do hear some teachers insisting that we need just input, but actually using it is very important.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I say the same as you, using it, as you said, blogs, get a diary going.
Yes.
I think blogs are wonderful nowadays because it is an online diary, isn't it? And it gives you purpose.
Yes, even doesn't have to be an official blog. It could be just social media posts in English.
Yeah,
and it can be anonymous if you're too embarrassed to use your your real name. Make it anonymous and just make an English account where you post English and share your ideas in English.
Yes,
using the language you've learnt in your in your study time.
Yeah, good. I think that's a very good tip. I'd also add to that, because a lot of my students say, well, yes, Jack, it's great, we've got to use our English, but how can we use our English in Korea? I don't have any foreigners I can chat to, and so I always say, actually, you can create that environment in your house. And one thing that I recommend is that I call it a verbal diary. And some people say shower conversations. Shower conversation is literally while you're having a shower, chat in English, say something. But the problem with that is a little bit vague. You can't have a conversation with yourself. Hi, Jack. Hi, Jack. How are you doing? I think you need to be a bit more specific and have a goal. So I suggest a verbal diary where, maybe it's in the shower, you're driving home after work, or a time where you're alone and talk about your day.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to practice your English. Not only go through your day, because of course that's useful, talk about the times and everything's in past tense, but also talk about your feelings as well. Your feeling at that time, your feeling now, how you feel a conversation went or your job went. I think that's a really good way of using your English more. Yeah,
I totally agree. Actually, a lot of my advanced students here at my university, they often say that they talk to themselves in English.
Yep.
Yeah, I think actually that's probably a secret strategy that a lot of really good English learners do. They think and they talk to themselves in English.
I totally agree. The one thing I can say that's in common with my advanced students that I teach, they all say they've done some form of that, whether it's watching a drama, but copying it aloud. Using those structures and actually saying it aloud to themselves. They all say the same. So I think you're right. I think that's one of those tips that can really bring you to the next level.
Yeah, I agree.
Good. Do you use it in Korean? Do you use this tip?
I used to, a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually I still do sometimes.
Yeah.
But when I was studying Korean hard, I did that naturally. Without thinking about it, I just would do it.
Yeah.
I think you need a lot of motivation
to
do that. A lot of real joy and love of the subject you're studying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and have a real reason to do it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same. I did do it a little bit, but I got to get back into it. I really do. So hopefully this podcast is going to get that motivation again, and I'll start studying Korean.
Awesome.
Yeah. So good. That's our 5th podcast about studying. I hope you enjoyed this podcast.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, you can write them in the comments below and we'll definitely check and respond.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yeah. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with some more interesting subjects. See you soon.
See you.
Yep. Bye-bye.